Nasir Qureshi, Realtor Daddy from Houston, Texas, on Wisdom Wednesday TV show by demand. Hot. We have another honorary special guest with us on this episode, and we're here to learn from him about him. Hi, Gerald. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great, Nasser. How are you doing?
Good, fantastic. Thank you for taking some time and being with us, and share your story. So, could you tell us that who are you and where are you from and where are you joining us from?
Well, I'm from Cordell, Oklahoma. It's right in the middle of the southwest part of the state in Oklahoma. That's where I grew up. I was born in Lawton and went to high school, went to college at Southwestern Oklahoma in Weatherford. And, when I was growing up, I always wanted to be involved in sports and everything. I love sports. And of course, I was in football. And when I graduated from college, a lot of my friends they were looking for coaching jobs in Oklahoma and everything. And I thought that's great, but I'm going to go to Texas. And so I came down to Dallas. I was very fortunate. I went to work for Tom Kimbrough at Plano Senior High, and I was there for the next 39 years. I was a classroom teacher, English, and an assistant football coach and baseball coach, and then I became head coach. Uh, 11 years later, as head coach for 16 years. And I became the district athletic director and did that for 13 years. And then I retired. I thought that was enough. And then right after that, COVID hit and rocked my world like it did everybody else in the world, and uh, really did some soul searching there and went back to my roots. I'm teaching school again. I'm teaching literature at McKinney Christian Academy. Just was 2 miles from my house over here, and I'm coaching football over there. I'm going to be the head coach on the junior high team this year. That's I'm really excited about that. And um, I guess as far as writing books, that's what you're interested in. How I got into writing. Back when I was an English teacher at Plano Senior High, we read all the great novels, a lot of the great novels, To Kill a Mockingbird, Grapes of Wrath, Moby Dick, on and on, and we'd be in the middle of reading in the middle of class, and I'd look out there and half the kids were asleep, they having trouble following. So I'd say, everybody stop, put your books down, close your books, and I'd try to just wake them up, and they'd look up at me, and I'd say, I can write a story as good as this. Someday I'm going to do it. And it's, no, you can't, coach. You can't either. They would laugh at me and make fun of me, and we get a big laugh out of it. But when I became athletic director, I traveled all the time. I was traveling all over Texas, all over the country, really, and a lot of times downtime in hotel rooms. And I thought, I better back up what I said, and that's when I started. That's when I started writing, which was really all but 20 years ago or so, and written 4 books now. And I love to write. I recommend writing to everyone. And but I've made my mistakes, and in the publishing business, I probably made more mistakes than anybody, as far as trying to get books published and trying to do enough School of Hard Knocks. But I'm fortunate that I'm with a good company now, Quippy Quill, Robert Williams, and I try to help anybody any way I can.
Fantastic. What a great story. So, and you also have the discipline and being a sport professional and how to not only you have it, you also have expertise to coach this to other people. And um, do you, of course, I'm sure that you practice a little bit of discipline and some of the things that athletics uh, use in their life and that you teach. What do you and what are those?
Sure, just every day. When you're talking in a high school literature class, it's a half the kids are probably not too interested in writing. They know that they're not, but then the other half probably they are. They all have to write because that's what I try to do is try to teach them to write with their structure, and I focus on that first, but then on how they approach it, and coming up with ideas and having their own style and being themselves. But some of them in there, we have some kids at our school that have an opportunity, if they want to pursue it, to be just fantastic writers. And there's a big market for writers out there. A lot of people don't know it, don't know that, but there is. There's a lot of jobs for people who can really put words on paper and make it count, you know. And so I try to teach the structure, the basics, is, you know, and put that down first. But then I also like to teach from the heart, you know, and how to write and how to really get some good substance in there and really say something. It's a it's a tough deal. I think I just believe in consistency. You have to write consistently. We just, like, on one day of the week, on Wednesdays, that's writing day, and I try to set it up with the kids. They know that's all they have to do on Wednesday, and I try to put 5 or 6 prompts up on the board for them where they can choose, or I'll let them choose if something's really on their mind, and, you know, that they feel like they need to write about on that particular day. I'll let them go, you know. And my policy is I read every single word written every week, you know, all my classes, and I don't redline a lot. I don't go back and grade all of it. We write a lot, grade a little. That's our philosophy, but it does work. And we made a lot of progress. But I can talk about writing all day long.
And I'm loving it. I'm loving it, and I'm sure that our audience will also enjoying this. And um, so, if someone wants to, let's say, write professionally, or a book or an article, what is the first thing that you recommend?
Well, the first thing, what are you going to say? I mean, you've just can't really start writing randomly. You've got to have some type of a subject, and you got to have some type of a comment. What is it? What are you going to put on paper that people are going to be interested in reading? It starts there. And then your structure of how you put it on paper is critical. I mean, if you use poor syntax, if you don't know how to paragraph, if you don't know how to put something together, I don't think that very many people are going to be too interested if you can't do that. But then when we get past that point, you know, okay, you know, you know how to put it on paper, you know how to write. Then, you know, how are you going to come from the heart? How are you going to speak from the heart? How are you going to translate your thoughts onto the paper? Everybody does it differently. For me, I can only really speak for myself. Um, I would always go with a big picture idea, like on my books. I would go with a big picture idea, something that really intrigued me, and then I would just sit down. You have to get started. You know, I'm a big believer in a little bit every day uh, is important. You know, a lot of people will start writing, then they'll put it aside. They won't pick it back up for weeks. If you'll just get started, even if you just putting a title on the page on the page and maybe writing a couple sentences, you'd be surprised how that all of a sudden will start multiplying down the page, and, you know, all of a sudden you can put something together. But what worked for me was I would research, I would get my ideas, I would think, I would pray, I would really think it all through before I'd start writing. But when I started writing, I guess I'm pretty fortunate that it just came to me naturally. I was never was. I've heard of people doing it this way, and I think it's a good way to go if it works for them, is to try to, like, outline everything. I never really did do that. I would just write it as I went. You know, what came through my heart. That was what I would put on the paper. And then, of course, I was constantly editing, constantly going back through it, and that's how I do it. And
Mm.
I think that's the really is probably the best way to go myself.
Uh, what kind of books you have written, and could you elaborate a little bit, shine some lights on them, please?
Well, the first book I ever wrote was this book. I'll put it up here for you. It's called the 70/30 Split.
Okay.
This is the first book I wrote, and this is nonfiction.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know how to write a book. I didn't know how. I had no idea how to do it.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah.
and so I even got a book back here, and I'll show it to you. Got it right here. This is the original. This is the original book. You notice that I would literally, I would literally write uh, chapters, and it was nonfiction. It was about. I started off. I had a pretty serious tone about it. It was about coaching. You know, dealing with kids, with players, and everything, and had a pretty serious tone. And then I kind of started. I stopped and I thought, I don't think anybody's really interested in this. And so I went back and I started telling the funniest stories I could remember about my coaching experience. And then I also blended that in with stories of motivation about famous people that I'd read, and I did a little research, and I kind of combined the two things. And what I did was then I would literally print it on the computer, font it down and print it, and then get a pair of scissors and a glue stick out and cut it and fit it into this book, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So
Wow.
that that made it a reality, and I could touch it, I could feel it. I knew what it was going to all the way to the cover,
Yeah.
in the back of the book. And I've always kept this for years and years because it's so important to me. Number one, but I think
Yes.
it's a good example for people, and that's how I did it. Now, my first book, I made a ton of mistakes, and I look back on it and I'll reread. And we've republished it and reprinted it 5 or 6 times, and I think, man, I'll be reading through it. How could I make a mistake like that? Oh my gosh, how could I do that? Don't let that stop. Don't let that slow you down. Don't be so precise in your writing and everything that it slows you down. Just go. You can go back and change it later, but keep the momentum. Stay with the momentum. So I wrote that book. Went over pretty well. It was pretty popular, but then I always wanted to write a novel. And so one day I was thinking about writing a novel and I was trying to come up with an idea. And my wife and I were on vacation out in San Francisco, and we were waiting on the plane to leave. And I was just rummaging through a bookstore because I'm a bookstore nerd. I love bookstores. I love just walk around and look at books, and everything. And I just stumbled onto this book about the history of San Francisco called The Barbary Coast.
Mm.
And it went all the way back to very back when California was just badlands. And I bought that book and started reading. I had pretty much read it by the time we got home back to Texas. And I thought, I can tell this story. And so it's a story about a Texas Rangers. Well, starts off with how gold was discovered in California in the Colomar Valley. It's a very short chapter, just kicked it off. And then a lot of people don't realize that there was another gold rush going on in the 1850s in Australia.
Mm.
And they were in Australia. Everybody was running to the hills, the gold rush, and the criminals were just taking over the towns. And so the law came in. It was under colonial rule back under English rule back in those days, and they rounded them all up and they walked them down to the docks in front of all the people, and they made deals with the ship owners, and they tell them, so you can either get on these ships, and leave, or that's going to be it for you, but don't ever come back. This is in Sydney, Melbourne. And of course, where did they go? They went straight to San Francisco because that was where the other gold rush was going on. And here they come. They called them the Aussies, and here they came, and they came in and just basically took San Francisco over.
Mm.
So anyway, that's how I get started. And I told a story about also at about the same time the Colt Navy revolver was Samuel Colt had developed this little handgun. This remember back in the 1850s, and he did it for the Navy. He thought it'd be a great um, weapon for sailors on the Navy, but it never did stick. He never did get much out of it. So he approached the Army, approached the Texas Rangers. And so I made up this story about these Texas, they came into Austin and had a contest, and you can shoot this. If you can shoot this gun, uh, that we're going to take the top 10 shooters with this gun. We're all going to give you one. And so these guys in this contest, and these got 10 of these guys, they win these Colt Navy revolvers. They also won an assignment to guard a payroll wagon way down into the depths of Southwest Texas to Camp Stockton to Indian country to deliver a payroll to the other Rangers down there. They didn't know that when they entered a contest, and that's what kicks the story off about the main character Ray Andrews. And it's a love story. It's a historical story, but it's a lot of fun. I
What is,
gravitated. I'm
what's the
sorry.
name of the book?
It's called Ox and the Culvert. Here it is. It went to the. This is it's a great story. It has it got a lot of humor in it, and really proud of this, and it did really well. It did really well, and we're
Yeah,
putting it back out right now. As a matter of fact, it's going back out through Quippy Quill. We're putting it back out onto the market right now.
I'm actually I was enjoying this story. I just wanted you to go on and on and on. I
Yeah,
was yeah, great. Yeah, I
a
like
lot of fun. Well, the next book I wrote was
yeah.
this book called Agent 49.
Mm.
And what it's about is back when we in Los Alamos, when we were developing the atom bomb,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of that was the next thing I really started getting into. While I got kind of get interested in this character named Wild Bill Donovan, who was a real character
Mm-hmm.
back when it got serious, kind of like what's going on today. The scary talk, about nuclear arms right now. But when that was all just starting to develop, President Roosevelt was the president, and he's one of his college friends at Columbia University. He was president, and they knew that the Germans were uh, invading all the uranium fields all over Europe, and gathering up a bunch of uranium. They knew that they were trying to build an atom bomb, and that we had to get going on it. We had to get started on a nuclear bomb, nuclear weapon. And so they started planning it, and he didn't know. He said, we've got to protect, and we got to watch everybody involved on this, because
Mm-hmm.
ironically, with AI and all the young people, computers, everybody in today, all the young people, know computers better than anybody else. I think we'd all agree with that. It was
Mm-hmm.
the same thing back then. Most of the best scientists were young people. They were in their
Mm-hmm.
20s. They were the
Mm-hmm.
people in their 20s built the bomb because they were the best experts that we had in America. Well, anyway, uh, President Roosevelt brings Wild Bill Donovan in, and he says, we're going to watch every single person that goes in and out of those gates, and especially these scientists. And Wild Bill, he was a war hero, great, didn't talk much. He said, okay, I want an open checkbook on this, and I want to be able to recruit the people I want. And that's how he picked these, he started picking these scientists and working with Leslie Groves, who was in charge of the whole thing, of course, Oppenheimer. And that's how they built the thing. But eventually that their things did get out, and that I tell the story of how the secrets of the blueprint, the true story of how the blueprint of the atom bomb was passed to Russia. And the
Mm.
way it happened is I always say this, it's every American should hear this story. It's went through Chicago, back through New York, and fascinating story. And I just did the best I could to tell that story in a historical novel that people would enjoy. So that's my good one. And then the last book I wrote was Old Money. This is my latest book,
Mm-hmm.
and it's about it's a little lighter. It starts off pretty light, but it ends up being pretty serious. It's about three kids in a small town who take on the town bully,
Mm.
and what happens when they're kids leads, is fun and games when they're kids turns into life and death when they're involved, when they become adults. So it's a good story too.
Excellent. I'm really enjoying it. I'm personally going to check out your books. Where people can buy your books?
The best thing geraldbrence.com is one way you can go. You can go to my website and buy one there,
Mhm.
but you can get them all on Amazon. You can buy them through Quippy Quill or whatever. I will say that from the publishing side of it, I said earlier, I probably made it. I made every mistake in the book when I first started writing. I had no idea how to do it, how to put a book into publication, and if I had it to do over again, I would have done a lot of things differently. But I finally landed with Quippy Quill because it was kind of my last resort, and I have a home there now. I have a website. I have a base, and put all things. And I've starting to venture out on my website to do interviews and things like what you're doing with me right now, and I've really enjoyed that. And I don't, I'm just getting started on all that. I still have a full time job. I very happy with it. I really enjoy it very much. I enjoy the kids. I enjoy the school, and don't have any plans to. My plans are to keep going right now. I don't know how long I'll go. Of course, I already retired once, so we'll see. We'll see how that goes. But you know, I work on everything when I can. I'm off right now for summer vacation. I'm really enjoying that, so I have a lot more time to spend on my books. But it's passionate. It's a passionate thing for me.
I can tell. What kind of food Gerald likes?
Well, I'm from Southwest. I love barbecue and just about anything. I always kid around that I'm a chicken fried steak connoisseur. Everywhere I go, I'm going to check out what kind of chicken fried steak they have. And of course, I'm prejudiced, but I think Texas leads the way there for sure.
Yes,
But it's anything. I'm pretty easy to please on that. I just but just the Texas basics, Oklahoma basics. Uh, what do they call it? Comfort food.
comfort food. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
So this is the last question I ask to every guest. Okay, every guest. Outside of what you do, outside of being author, coach, and literature teacher, generally, for your life from your birth till this day, whoever you are, what life made you, what advice would you give to planet Earth, human race, everywhere, where people can, if they come across this interview, month from now, 5 years from now, or 50 years from now, one advice, one that you would like to give to the human race, what would that be?
Well, it's pretty easy for me. Um, I've always believed that there was an old saying that uh, the church is a hospital for sinners. It's not a museum for saints.
Mm,
Personally, I've made so many mistakes in my life. I've messed up so many times, but the grace of God has always redeemed me, and I've always made it through. I believe that God speaks to you through your instincts. And, that's how the Holy Spirit works, and to follow your instinct, pray, establish a relationship with God, and pray and trust your instincts, trust your heart. And that's a great way to live your life.
beautiful. I love it. I love it. That was very nice. Mr. Gerald, it's been an honor, privilege to have you on my show and get some insight from you and got to know you a little bit. I want to thank you for spending some time. Show would like to have you back again some other time.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you.